Welcome everybody. Today we are talking to Chris Kirkpatrick, CEO and founder of Life 180, Living Intentionally for Excellence, being able to help people turn their lives around through financial services, and really most of all, one of the things that you and I vibed on and what we've connected and partnered on is helping people change their life through changing their thinking and aligning their behavior with their actions. And so, of course, on this channel we talk about that concept a lot, and who better to bring on today to interview than Chris himself. Ultimately, Chris, thank you. I want to start by thanking you for being here today. I appreciate spending the time with us and being able to share these messages with folks. So,
yeah, brother.
As we get into this, I want to bring up something that I know is near and dear to your heart.
Oh boy.
Okay?
All right.
So,
here we go.
When we talk about something like financial services and helping people find abundance financially, in our process, we are actually helping people more often than not learn their vision, mission, values, and goals before we ever help them with anything financial.
Totally.
So when someone's gone through that process with us, at the end of that, they have a result of being super clear on what it is they want to do.
Amazing.
But there's a ton of noise in the world, and if they were to go online and look for different ideas of what they should be investing in or how they can create tax-free income in retirement,
yes,
and they heard about this thing, this three-letter thing, and they're like, yeah, tell me about this IUL.
Oh, yes, I knew we were going here.
And I heard this one guy, he was telling me, I think his name was Curtis Ray, I could get $120,000 tax-free income.
Yes.
I could do it. I could. If and only I did certain things.
Average 10% with no risk, long term.
Zero risk.
Way better income distribution planning vehicle than anything else, according to these guys.
And if there's zero risk, why haven't I heard about this before, Chris?
Yeah.
And now that I have heard about it, I'd like to know from you a little bit about why helping people understand the difference between tax-free income used through a whole life policy is actually going to provide more guarantees in their life than using something like an IUL.
Well, let's not hop right into the whole life side yet.
Okay.
Let's talk about.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. Let's talk about just IUL and the misrepresentation of what it is.
Perfect. So tell me why an IUL is the best vehicle for me to use.
Why it's the best vehicle for you to use. Well, I can't do that.
Okay.
But I can tell you why you don't want to do it unless you want to lose your entire life savings.
Okay. Sounds great. Let me know about that.
How's that sound? So, here's the deal. I was a director of business development for one of the top IUL companies in the country from 2011 to 2014.
So what does that exactly mean? What were you developing?
My job was to go teach all the agents around the country, teach them how to sell, how to recruit, and ultimately how to make as much money as possible selling IUL. And I understand how IUL agents and how people get sold this because I was sold it. I believed in it. I started in the business and I did it for 4.5 years, and I loved it. And I thought I was doing great things until I realized that everything I was doing and everything I was telling people was just a half truth, right? And in the world I come from, if you're telling a half truth, you're telling a lie, and it's deceptive, it's misleading, it's misrepresentative of the truth, even if it's not. Like, I guess a lie, you have to have the knowledge to know that you're lying. So I won't go so far as to say that IUL agents are lying. I'll say that the IUL companies are lying in their trainings, right? You went to a company's training recently, and it's in that situation, the things that they were saying, and you were sharing videos with me and doing all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Those are flat out lies, and they know it.
And they were terrified when I was asking the questions. They went so far as to avoid answering them and providing me information that actually had nothing to do with my question.
Yeah.
And when I looked deep into their marketing materials, they kept using this retirement supplement, supplement your retirement income.
Yeah.
What's the danger in people thinking that IUL potentials are actually retirement vehicles?
Well, because like IUL is sold as this great tax-free income vehicle in retirement because of a guy named Patrick Kelly who wrote a book called Tax-Free Income, or Tax-Free Retirement in, like, I think it was 2007 or 8 or something like that. And people flock to it because IULs have the ability to illustrate, meaning project a potential result of something that looks amazing, right? And every IUL illustration looks amazing. They do. It's why I created the IUL challenge, because IULs are sold with upside potential, right? That's how they're sold. Upside potential, you can earn up to a cap or an uncapped rate of a certain percentage. And then you're protected, downside protection at 0%. You can never lose money. So that's a really compelling story. But the reality is it's misrepresentative of how they actually work. And if you think about it this way, it's like the one thing nobody can argue, and this is just history, is that we just came through the greatest bull run in the history of markets. Fair enough?
Absolutely.
Okay. So we came through the greatest bull run in the markets, and IUL was in existence the entire time.
Yep.
People had sold IULs over the past 15 years, and yet if the product has upside potential, and people who bought a policy in 2012, for instance, bought it and the product, quote unquote, had upside potential, that would mean that in the greatest bull run, participating in the index of the IUL, the product should have outperformed the way it was sold. Fair enough?
I agree.
Okay. So I created a thing called the IUL Challenge.
Okay, so the IUL challenge
Yep.
ultimately is a challenge to see if
IUL agents who are saying these are the best thing in the world can put their money where their mouth is.
so any agent out there that sees this
Yep.
challenge is still alive and
It's
well.
for you. Nobody's won it yet, and it's been 3 years.
3 years of running the challenge.
Yep.
And all it asks is that in the last 10, a minimum
The
10
policy's
years,
got to be at least 10 years
at least
old.
10 years old, during that period of time, the
Yep.
illustration that the policy was sold to the client representing,
Yep.
typically maybe 6-7% return at high level, maybe 5% at the low level if they illustrated that way.
Yeah, I mean, people get to illustrate them at at wide ranges between, I'd say, 5.8 and 8%.
Okay.
You know, is kind of over the past decade what people have illustrated them at.
And then get an in-force illustration.
Yeah,
meaning
so
policy today.
policy today, I want to see the in-force illustration as long as the illustration is at least 10 years into the policy. And the original illustration is the original one that was submitted with the policy when it was purchased.
And if it just meets the same,
All they have to do is match.
all they have to do is match. Could exceed it, but just match.
And matching every one, if like, see, this is the problem. IUL agents sell the illustrations as conservative.
Right.
Right? And so if they're so conservative, well, during the greatest bull run of all time for a product that provides upside potential,
Should have no problem.
every single product should at least match, right? I've done an offer right now with this challenge. I just want to see somebody show me one.
Just one. And
I'll
what
get
do you give them?
$10,000.
10 racks.
10 racks.
100 Benjis.
Spoken like a good poker player. 10 racks. So here we go. Like, and out of that, I've had 2 people tell me that they could do it and then just ghost me and not be able to do it. I've had, a lot of people come to me and tell me they think they can do it and then honestly just convert to realize they were wrong and started selling whole life and realizing that was more in alignment with what they were doing. But the challenge is, like, what I see the most is I see these arrogant, egotistical nitwits, I'm just going to call it,
Okay.
who've been in the business for 3 years. And
Some
they've-
up to 20.
Well, no, but I'm saying that the ones that bother me
Okay.
are the ones that have been 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and they're like, now I've got this figured out. It's awesome. And and they say, I've got policies that are performing as illustrated, and that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. They can perform well for the first couple of years, and they do oftentimes for the first couple of years, especially when they get bailed out by these bull market years that we've had. And the challenge is, we sell these products, whether it's whole life or IUL, but I know IUL specifically are being sold as a long-term solution. So if you're looking at them being a long-term solution, you can't use a 3-year window as a validation point, right? You got to look at how are they going to perform on a longer period, or even a 5-year period isn't long enough. And so my suggestion to those people has always been, because they're like, I got policies that could win the challenge. It's like, that's great, but there's a reason I put a 10-year time horizon on it, is because that's the time horizon in which the insurance company, as a surrender period, there's a surrender period in the IUL where money becomes more liquid as time goes on. but as the money becomes more liquid, they typically adjust the parameters and the performance of the policy.
Wait. So you're telling me that an insurance carrier can market a new product,
Yep.
put all the bells and whistles on it,
Yep.
and then they can flip the script on their clients later on?
Happens every day. I just did a video on this. They have, I just did a company Nationwide.
That was the one I was going to say. We're going to put the link of the Nationwide video in this, and you can
crazy.
go watch it, because what ended up happening was they started out with a 5%.
They started out they illustrated the policy at 6.4%. Okay, the cap rate was 11%, right? And this policy was sold in 2018. Okay, they lowered the cap rate to 7.5%. So, if you know anything about these things, the illustration was 6.4 with a cap of 11. Now that the cap is 7.5, there is a 0% chance that this policy will ever have a chance of succeeding. But here's the problem. This is an older generation product. So legally, according to regulation in the insurance industry, Nationwide is allowed to shelve this product, stop selling it, and once they do, they no longer have to publicly post the cap rates of the policy. The only people that know the cap rates are the policyholders that get them annually in their statements.
And they get to jack those up.
And so they reduce the cap rates.
Right.
But now what's happening is they launch a new product, and the cap rate is 10.5%.
So they go into marketing with that product.
And they market that, so they subsidize the new product sales with the reduction in cap rates on previous products. So they're using their previous policyholders as profit centers to support the new cap rates, to sell more. And to me, it's not a Ponzi scheme, but it's effectively
a switch.
It's a bait and switch. And with that, like, to me, that's the biggest problem, is not like in a vacuum, in a bubble. Can IULs potentially work if all the variables stay in a perfect world scenario? Sure, they could. I'm just going to tell you that scenario has never once existed. And I come from a world of when people show you who they are, believe them. You know, I've made the mistake a lot of times in my life, is like trying to give people chance after chance after chance, and it's like, shit, I should have just like cut it off the first time. You know what I mean? And this is the thing, is like, people put this level of morality on life insurance companies, and with IUL companies, make no mistake about it, they're not participating mutual companies. They're either mutual companies that are not participating mutual, and I'll explain the difference to that in a second, or they're privately held stock companies. And so when you have an IUL with a privately held stock company, the company's number one objective has nothing to do with morality to you and the life insurance policy and taking care of your family.
Their number one priority is
the shareholders.
To
profitability.
Make profit.
Right? To create a return. That is their number one objective. That's one of the reasons when we talk about aligning money with values and beliefs and the attributes and the things that we're trying to do and the problems that we're trying to solve, I don't care about the potential. I care about the contract. I care about the relationship and the agreement contractually, because it is contract law when you get into life insurance. When you put your money into an IUL, you are a profit center contractually, and the illustration and the contract that you sign will tell you, if we have to change these things to benefit us, we will. And believe me, they will. With a whole life policy,
so
the
now
insurance company.
We're going to make the transition.
Yep.
And for the consumers out there that are trying to figure out what this big difference is, if an IUL is right for them or a whole life is right for them, my question is, would you rather be a profit center for a corporation, or if you went to the whole life side, what is the benefit? You become a participating
member, a policyholder of the company, and so you basically become a business partner or a shareholder of the company.
Of companies that are been around for over 100 years, that have consistently paid dividends every year through Great Depressions, through World Wars,
through it all,
through COVID,
through everything. I mean, through the freaking Civil War.
Through the Civil War.
Okay?
Before we even had the US dollar the way that we know it today.
There's been 3 versions of the US dollar that it's endured for all the people that are worried about the CBDC and Bitcoin and all these things. The way I look at it is I put my money in a whole life insurance policy not to be this big high risk investment. That's not what it's about. It's a foundational asset. Right? What do I want in a foundational asset? I want it to be stable. I want it to always grow. I want it to be relatively liquid. I want it to what I would call be self-completing, right? Because I do care about my legacy, right? I want to make sure that I'm saving for a reason, because I'm not doing all this just for myself. It's what am I doing it about? What am I doing it for? And for me, it's my kids. And I think anybody with a family understands what I'm talking about, you know? And so I want it to be self-completing, meaning if I die tragically somehow, everything I'm working towards actualizes overnight. Think about the power in that. When you do this, you're able to gamify life. Like, there's no more stress. Think about like all the stress people have because of the legacy that they want to leave. Even the people with money, they get to retirement and they become misers of their money because of the fact that they're like, if I spend it all, I'm not going to have anything for my next generation.
I'm so glad you said that, because when I started working when I was 10, delivering newspapers, saving money, investing some, and through my 20s made lots of money, lost lots of money.
Yeah.
Ultimately, when my kids were born, I was so stressed out all the time. If my wife and I are only making X number of dollars, how are we going to not only live the life we want to live today,
Totally.
but be able to leave something for our kids later?
Yep.
And the best night of sleep I ever had was after our life insurance policies, our whole life policies, our banking policies, cash flow policies, whatever you want to call them, were implemented into our family. And I knew, no matter what, unequivocally, without a doubt, if something happened to me tomorrow, my kids would be set in terms of being able to know what message I want to send them, and that ultimately they'd have the things that they need, and I don't have to worry about that. What did that allow me to do? Be more present every day, work less in a grind, or be able to actually stop working that second and third job, get rid of some of those, side hustles that just were there to make money and earn enough money to have experiences, to now be able to focus on the things that were most important in my life. So that to me was one of the most beautiful things that happened in my mindset when I implemented these financial systems as a foundational asset.
100%. And in that foundational asset, we need to know that we're in control, right? We need to know that from a contract law perspective, that rather than being a profit center where the insurance company has the right and the obligation to take care of their shareholders at our expense. Think about that.
It sounds terrible.
It is terrible. Like, there's no way around it. People wonder why I bang on IUL all the time. It's because, like, fundamentally, if people knew what they were buying, they'd want to slap themselves. You know what I mean? Like, they'd be like, how did I get tricked into that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, like, they understand that, like, that is the case. But now when you go into whole life, you are now a shareholder, a business partner with some of the most financially stable, most successful long-term asset management, firm in the world, in the history of the world. And the reason I love having my money in a whole life policy is because of the fact that, listen, I have a lot of worries about the future of the government. I have a lot of worries about the dollar being at risk. I have a lot of worries about the medical institution and all this stuff. We didn't even talk about the living benefits of it all, right? Like, I have a lot of worries about the future of our country. And what I know to be true is if I have all these worries, I can either live in fear or I can live in abundance. I can live in fear and be scarce and try to operate like I'm going to try to beat the system, which nobody's going to be able to do. Like, I've played that game. I went through that period of my life where I was like writing blogs on the economy and trying to convince everybody on Facebook that, Democrats are evil and all this stuff. And it's just like, it got me nowhere except for anxiety. Right? And lack of peace. And I was taking time away from my family, wasting it battling with people on Facebook. And my wife was like, hey, babe, I'm right here. Like, pay attention to me. Hey, your newborn's right here. Pay attention to us. And I'm like in bed, like jamming away on trolls on Facebook, wasting my life. There's nothing in that for anybody, but this is what people do, right?
There'll probably be someone making comments to us right now.
Oh, cool. 100%. But that said, what I do believe we have a responsibility to do is not worry about the rest of the world, because we can't control the rest of the world. We can control ourselves. We can make the impact on our direct families, and we can create financial structure and systems that protect us. I do believe that we need to have a plan that prepares for the worst, but hopes for the best. I want to look at this world through the lens of abundance. I want to look at this world through the lens of hope, right? I want to look at this world through with the idea that we have the ability to create our own realities, right? And create our own futures. And a lot of times people feel like they lose that ability because there's so much out of our control. Not because it's out of your control, but because you've been tricked into thinking that it is.
And when you participate in other vehicles, It actually is.
It actually is, right. And so that's where that feeling gets cemented. It gets galvanized,
Yep.
right? Solidified. And when you do what we do, you learn that you have more control. It's one of the reasons I tell people I love this so much, is not because it's the best asset in the world from a return perspective, but because it's the best asset in the world from all the reasons that I've talked about so far. And the thing I love about it most is it forces you to become who you need to be to live the life that you say you want to live. Right?
And I think that's why our viewers tune into our channel.
Yeah.
They want to understand
Exactly.
in a better way how they can be the person they want to be in all areas of their life.
Yep.
And
I love it.
you know, this won't be the last time you see Chris. But we're going to have Chris on here more and more all the time. Have opportunities to talk about different areas of life, and
Totally.
so grateful for you to show
brother.
up.
Me too.
Please like and subscribe so you can be notified as we put more videos out. Thanks for joining in today.
See you guys.